Hello and welcome to a live special edition of whatever this is. It's Norwood's special election, and I'm joined with Jerry Slater. I'm Jack McCarthy. We're coming to you live from Memorial Hall. It's a very historic day for the town of Norwood. It's our first operational override ever. And what do you think?
Well, you know, this is a big night of first operational override. First time you're back on air after being on the disabled list.
I was on the IL. They don't call it disabled list anymore. It's the injured list.
The injured list. So welcome back, Jack.
Thank you
for being here. And it's also we think about the 8th largest operational override ever in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So historic all the way around.
Very good. And, you know, it is, as you say, it's the first one, so we really don't know what to expect. Although I know signs don't vote, but if you looked at the signs, it certainly looks favorable for the yes side.
Yeah, overwhelming. And even if Saturday, if you were looking in the center of town, you could not move your car without somebody holding a yes sign.
So it's after 8 o'clock. The polls have closed. We're waiting for results to come in. So we thought we'd jump in with the general manager. Come on in, Tony.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Very good. I think most people are focused on the school side of the 5 million, and which is about 4, but there's $1 million for the town, the government side as well. So tell us what you think overall, and then about the share that would go to you guys.
Sure. So, I always take this opportunity at any election to thank Mary Lou Follin, the town clerk, the election workers in her office, the board of registrars, and all the poll workers, and the DPW workers, and the custodians, and everyone that makes an election happen. It really takes a lot to make an election happen. It's a lot of time and energy and effort. So kudos to them for running another great election. And all the folks who got out there and got involved, the folks who put signs on their lawns, the folks who held signs. We had what felt like 6,000 government meetings on the topic, one way or the other. So thanks to the folks who watched those and who came to those. Hundreds of letters, a couple of protests on the town hall lawn. So this is, it's sort of a very climactic night. It's the end of many months of work in the community. So I want to really give a shout out to everyone for being part of the process. I mean, democracy is alive and well here today in Norwood, and the democratic process is playing out, and we'll see what the results of that are tonight.
And thank you to NCM for covering all of that also, by the way.
Yeah, if NCM hadn't been there, I don't know if it all would have really happened. So kudos to them for being there every step of the way with us as well. Especially with the last minute room changes and location changes on everything we did. They were always very accommodating. And some of those were very last minute room changes where we had to move them around. In terms of the actual operational override, there's about $500,000 that goes towards snow and ice and towards roads. So we'll be paving additional roads if the override passes, fixing a deficit that's been eating away at our reserves for several years. And then one part of the override is a $700,000 stabilization account that will hopefully make the budget balance over the next 5-year period, and that's what we're looking for. But we often talk about the town budget, the school budget, and they sort of follow each other in sync. So this year, we happen to see a lot of cuts on the school side, just the way we happen to budget. It just as easily next year would have been on the town side. So if the override weren't to pass, next year we'd be looking at a large deficit that would be borne on the general government department, cutting a lot of services there. So we're one community. It is really one budget at the end of the day. The way we move the money around and where the money comes from sometimes means certain departments or certain areas get hit in one year and other ones don't. So that's what we saw happening this year, but it's the whole community. It is just one community's budget. You pay one tax bill, not a school tax bill and a town tax bill and a police tax bill and a recreation tax bill. So, and as everyone's aware, investment in education, we pay a lot for our schools in Massachusetts. We do have the best schools in the country, but it's expensive, it takes a lot of money, and it's what draws people to a community. I always like to tell folks I think a great town manager is what draws everyone to a community, but really when folks are talking to a realtor and deciding on where they want to live, that first box is usually the quality of the school system. Second box is how good the town manager is.
Yeah, at least it's the second.
At least it's the second.
And so, as you can see, cutting in front is the first results coming in. So we'll have those momentarily. But Jerry, you must have had a question.
Yeah,
I
did.
I don't want to monopolize this.
So Tony, you talked a little bit about the stabilization fund. Can you explain what that is? I think that's a little bit of a mystery for the folks.
Sure. So when we looked at our numbers, we wanted to make sure that we raised enough money, not only in the first year, but to make sure we had enough money for at least a 5-year period. So in the first year, part of the amount of money that's raised is essentially being put in the bank. In the second year, we'll put a little bit less money into the bank. In the third year, we won't put anything into the bank, but we won't draw anything out. And then in years 4 and 5, and hopefully years after that, we'll draw some of that money out to balance. The Commonwealth came up with Proposition 2.5 in the early 1980s, and it doesn't always work, or at least to say it hasn't kept pace with the expenses that most towns face. So most towns, unless you're growing a lot, which is tough in Norwood, we're fully built out. The other side of that is you need to make sure you have enough money, and Prop 2.5 does become very limiting. Now, Norwood's done very well with its fiscal management over the years. The first operational override that's been on the ballot since Prop 2.5, there are some communities that have had half a dozen operational overrides. The community I grew up in has done several, and I've been through a few of these override battles before. Well, we often call them battles, but it's really been largely a good civic exercise here in Norwood to date.
Yeah, and I think it's more of an educational thing than a battle, you know?
Yeah.
Right, right. And this one was really united. I mean, when you kind of look back, the Budget Balancing Committee, you know, did their work, worked for, God, over a year, I think. And then,
Like I said, I think my count was 6,000 meetings. Maybe there were a few less in total, but I think we're up around 6,000.
it probably felt like that
Oh, yeah.
at the very least. And then, you know, slowly but surely, higher amount originally, correct?
Yes.
And then kind of settled after the state aid came in. Now, the other thing that the Budget Balancing Committee and both the school committee and all the town government, the FinCom and the selectmen, they signed basically a pledge or MOU, which is another element of this.
Correct. So that's based on some best practices in other communities in the Commonwealth where we're saying, okay, we're going to the taxpayers and asking them to raise their own taxes a fairly substantial amount. It's about an 8% tax increase depending on your actual tax bill. So the pledge includes limits on spending in both governments, limit both sides of the balance sheet, the school budget, which is our largest single budget, and all the general government budgets. So it's a pledge to cap expenses, and that doesn't mean we're going to max out that cap every year. It's just saying if funds are available, we're not going to exceed this. We're not going to spend money just because it's available. It includes a limit on adding positions. As everyone knows, we're primarily a service organization. The service we provide is through the bodies that we have. It's that police officer on the street, it's the firefighter responding in an ambulance, it's a teacher in the classroom. So limiting that is how we really limit our labor costs, because our wages and salaries, by and large, are comparable with other similar-sized communities. Our staffing levels are. Our benefits are very strictly regulated, not only by the union contracts, but by the state. And people don't often realize that. Our pension system is set in state law. Our health insurance, how we offer it, what we can offer it, that's all set by state law. So we work in a very narrow corridor on what we can do. So what we're trying to do is we can limit those costs by making sure we're not adding any bodies that aren't absolutely necessary, and looking for other efficiencies where we can. One of the unique parts of the override that's actually, the pledge I should say, that's a first in Massachusetts, is an inclusion that we're going to look to all of our other revenue sources before the tax levy. Most towns go to the tax levy first, so what you should see over a period of time is we're always going to try to exhaust those sources before maximizing out the levy. So if we did have good new growth in a year or really good state aid coming in subsequent years, we would say, hey, if this is what we need to balance, we do all this first and then hit the tax levy last. And that's actually unique in the Commonwealth.
Okay, very good.
Stuart?
I see Dave is here, our
Yeah,
superintendent. Why don't
I
we
think
get
we'll shift to the school
We'll
side.
throw Mizuko out.
Sounds like a plan. You guys
You're
have
getting a
one-
hook. You're getting a hook. Because you know, Dave, unless you got in here, you were not going to get that mic from him
No,
anytime
unless
soon.
you did that, I wasn't going to get that.
Well, we weren't going to just give the mic up to Dave without any
Yeah,
sort of-
so-
I mean, we wouldn't want Dave to just go through the whole evening without talking.
So I think we should have a contest.
Oh,
You
no,
know.
he'll win.
I will graciously cede the mic to Dr. Thompson. Oh, did you guys know that there's no P in Dr. Thompson's name? He should tell you the story about that.
You know, there's no pee in swimming either, but that's a story for a different.
Thank you, Tony.
How are you?
Good,
How are you?
Good.
So what do you think? I know we don't have any results yet, but talk about the process. Talk about everything that you've seen go on.
Well, I have to give One Norwood a lot of credit, and especially the ladies who have run that organization, running a quality campaign, high level, above board, taking the high road, bringing people together, and having constructive conversations about the need. So that's been job one. I mean, the schools have been, struggling with funding for a number of years. Budget balancing started right after town meeting. We've been meeting every 3 to 4 weeks since June.
6,000 meetings.
Yeah, 6,000 meetings, according to Mr. Mizuko. But it's been a very in-depth process and looking at, what the needs are, just to keep what we had. And we weren't even close to being able to do that this year, which is why the cuts were so severe. And then looking at not only replacing and keeping and fixing that structural deficit, but looking to improve, which is what we want to do.
It looks like it's going to, we don't know officially yet by any stretch of the imagination because we don't have the results, but kind of unofficially from our folks checking in polls, looks like it's going to be a high turnout. Do you think that's going to help the override, or?
I certainly hope so. I'm cautiously optimistic. My principals today reported several times that they've never seen more voters in the last 2 or 3 elections. A couple principals thinking that maybe they shouldn't have run some parent events today because of the number of cars coming in and out of the schools to vote. So hopefully that's a good sign. It definitely shows a high level of engagement, which is always a good sign, looking at the democratic process and civic engagement. So we've managed to accomplish that.
And we're seeing some more results
Right.
coming in, so I think this is it's going to be fairly quick once it starts rolling in.
Yeah, and I think, as we said earlier, it's a historic day here. And, coincidentally, we have, sort of new leadership at the top, both Dr. Thompson and Tony Mazzucco. And I think that's important, and I think it lends itself to things like this happening, They didn't have to own everything that went before them. And I think, they could come up with a straight face and say, we need this. This isn't any voodoo math or anything like that. We need this.
Right,
No.
right. And I mean, you and Tony and the budget balancing and your chairs, I mean, all 3 boards
Yeah, and that's a
basically
good
came
point.
out. Right.
Even Finance Committee.
Even
Right.
the finance committee, and
And
you
I don't
know
mean
what the
that-
FinCom is like.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is unusual for all 3 boards to be on the same page, but I think that goes back to the process that the town leadership put in place here to look at what the real needs were, and bringing that to the people and being a thoughtful process and people being able to engage in that over a long period of time.
And I think, my job, actually, several of my jobs have taken me across the state. And Norwood's really blessed that the town side and the school side get along so well. It really showed itself when we built the high school, and even before that. But, I mean, I go to some places, and there's just wars between the 2 sides. And,
Right.
I always said, now I'm with the school building authority, and I can tell when a project's going to go well or not well just by how the 2 sides act together. And when they're acting in concert, the project's going to go well. When they're not, you're going to have issues.
Right. Well, you have something really special here in Norwood, where it is a real community, and people are invested and have been for a long period of time, and it's been well managed for a number of years. So,
Yeah, more coming in.
more coming in.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know
A
what
third of the precincts are in right now.
Okay.
And Dr. Thompson, is this, now, I know this is, you're new to the district here, but have you been through an override before, an operational
I
override?
have not been, not as a
Oh,
school
wow.
leader, and as a citizen. My town has tried multiple times unsuccessfully to pass an override, badly needed override. So part of my cautiously optimistic and pessimism comes from being disappointed several times over. But that community that I live in, unfortunately, is not a community like Norwood. Don't care about each other, don't come together and solve problems. And that's what makes Norwood different.
Well, and it's interesting because in the geeky household that I live in, where stats on these sorts of things take effect. So there are close to 6,000 operational overrides that have gone forward.
Since 1980.
Yep, since Prop 2.5. And the approval rate is about 50%. Actually, it's a little less.
Right.
And I don't think people realize
Right.
how, and some of those are like, $27 overrides to pay a bill
Oh, yeah.
in a small community somewhere.
Right.
I said 1980. It was really 1990, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, so that's a huge number, and when you think about it, and we have, Norwood has avoided the pleasure of having one for quite some time, and we were talking before we went on air that, there were people that were taking pledges, town officials, that basically, no override,
Right.
and here we are.
Right. Well, and I think being able to go this long, is pivots on 2 things. One is really good management and leadership. And the other is an excellent tax base.
Right.
You have a great commercial industrial tax base that really helps that. And people will say the number is very big, but the impact is not as big as you would see in other communities with a smaller number. but that's good planning and good leadership over a number of years.
So I want to just throw a curve at you. Has
All right,
nothing
I'm
to
ready.
do with this. Yesterday was a big day for the Norwood Public Schools. We had graduation.
We did.
Tell me a little bit about the class of 2019.
The class of 2019 is an extraordinary class. We have incredible students there they're going to incredible places, and they're really going to make a huge difference. The first class, I was only here for a month. I've only known these kids. I've traveled with a large portion of them with Tony to DC for a week, and they just are a great group of individuals that really care about each other, but also care about the community. If you look at the community service piece that they've done in and around the community and how much they've been engaged, it's just a great representation of what this community is about. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there yesterday. My daughter graduated from her high school
Nice.
Oh,
at the same time
congratulations.
on the same
Yeah.
day. I was hoping she was going to be on a Friday night or a Saturday, but no, it was Sunday at 2. But they are, and I actually sent them an email and said, sorry, I can't be with you because they are such a special
Yeah.
group.
Well, that's an excused absence.
All right. So we see,
Thank you.
we see District
District 4,
4
this
is
is our-
coming,
ours is
coming in, and I think we actually have somebody in the bullpen that.
District 4.
From District 4, so it's a
So-
good segue.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank
And
you.
congratulations to your daughter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Slater, how are you, sir? So we were talking about, even the Finance Committee was in favor of this override. So, people might be surprised at that, but it was good. Well, I'll let you tell me
Well,
why.
I mean, first of all, Jack, good to see you back.
Thank you.
I mean, times change. When it really came down to it, the numbers were compelling. You can talk about the job that the One Norwood Committee did, which was great and everything, but the bottom line was the numbers told the story. And no matter what we tried to do, no matter what we looked at, or scenarios we tried, we could not make the numbers work. And this was really the only solution that was available.
Yeah, and Tony Mizuko brought up a good point. There's very little discretion almost that in the budget that we have to deal with. Tell us about the frustration or the issues with that.
Well, you look at it. There's so many things that are out of our control. Because you have contracts, those negotiated. You have health insurance, which is completely out of our control. We've been very fortunate for a couple of years with health insurance. We weren't this year. We have additional money that we have to pay for retirement. So there are so many of those shared costs, which to a great extent drive the budget to the point where there's very little discretionary money available for anything.
And then on the school side, the whole special ed is out of, deserves, people deserve services. I'm not questioning that. But it's really out of their control. It's whoever shows up, we have to provide them services as we should.
Right. And again, like you say, it's who shows up and who deserves certain services. There have been issues at the times, disagreements between who gets the services that sometimes is established in court. But the bottom line is once it's determined that certain services are needed, that's what the community is mandated to give.
Right.
Now, with the Budget Balancing Committee, and Maya Bonhoeffer is now the chair, but you were the chair through much of the...
Yep.
How did the committee come together and actually decide on the number? And how did everybody get to agree on that?
Yeah. Well, it was surprisingly it was a lot easier than we thought. I mean, Tom McQuaid did a great job early on developing a 5-year plan, which showed that as things would stand over a 5-year period, we would be approximately $31 million in the hole. Okay? And you took it from that, and the schools came up with their plan. First of all, we looked at what simply do you need for level service, and then it'd say, okay, have a few add-ons, a few enhancements, and we sort of came to numbers, and originally it was like $8.7 million, then it was like, not going to work, go back and sharpen the pencils. It went down to $7 million, and we fortunately get some additional money from the Commonwealth, some additional educational aid, which brought the number down to $5.95 million. So I think it was really a matter of cooperation. We all knew we had a job to do. Nobody liked what we had to do, but we knew it was necessary, and we did basically what we had to do as public officials.
So really, the first thing was recognizing the problem and defining it. And once you did that, then it's, okay, how do we fix it?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically true, Jack. We've been lucky in the past, as you well know. You always use the term, we pull rabbits out of the hat, but we scraped the bottom of the barrel. There was nothing left. There's absolutely nothing left. And it was a tough year also because of limited free cash. And it was really a perfect storm, and everything seemed to came together. We understood that there was a problem. It was our responsibility to come up with a solution to fix it.
Awesome. Well, I think we have in this the revolving chairs. We actually have your partner, one of your partners in crime here, Mr. Slater. We have the chairwoman of the school committee.
Hi, Jerry. Hi,
How are
Jack.
you?
How are you?
Great.
First of all, we're going to start with we're going to say congratulations on your daughter's graduation yesterday.
Thank you very much. It was a beautiful day yesterday at high school graduation.
And so what's the future plans for her?
She's going to nursing school at the University of Vermont.
Oh, nice. Groovy UV.
Never say that to a mother. So, how are you feeling?
I will relax when I see the numbers, I hope, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that I've been really impressed by all the volunteers I've seen who have come out, who have done standouts, who have done so much information, ways to push information out, and I think it's just been a wonderful to see the community engagement.
And, I joked when I interviewed you the last time on election night, I said, and now the work begins. And you said, no, now the work continues.
Yes. It's been going on for a long time. And, the stakes are really high for the schools.
Right.
They really, really are very high for the schools. And so I would love to know tonight that we can keep the Willet open, that we can fund our extracurricular activities, that we can keep 3 teams of teachers for the 8th grade. And so I'm really hoping that's the direction we're going in. But it's really all up to whatever the voters want, and the school committee will give them the school district that they want.
Well, some results have been posted. We're waiting for the official results to get to the truck.
All right.
So
Are
they
we making you
can,
nervous?
Maybe a little bit.
so they can put them in. Anyone want to give me a high sign over there looking at that? Is things looking favorably, unfavorably? No one's reacting.
No one's reacting. So I
Okay,
think
it's looking favorably.
Yeah. Well, we see one of the co-chairs of the Yes committees with the thumbs up. So
And a big smile.
And a big smile. So we're thinking now. Maya, one of the things we were talking to Dr. Thompson about is it looks like a fabulous turnout today.
I was really impressed. I spent some time this afternoon out at the Cleveland, and I spent from 6 to 7:45 or so. I was at the Prescott, and there's just been a whole parade of people coming through. I think the turnout has been great.
And do you think that's going to favor yes, or?
I'm hoping it will, because I'm hoping that this campaign has helped to engage some people who maybe weren't paying as much attention to town politics, and to realize how important it is to really be engaged.
Exactly, and I think, I was telling the story before when I was voting today. We have some results, so I'm going to stop talking.
Sure.
Do you want to do the honors?
Okay, so in District 1, we have 685 yes, 242 no. We have District 2, 709 yes, 200 no. District 3, we have 673 yes, and just live update, 177 no. District 4, 912 yes, 284 no, and they came in sort of in order. That's pretty interesting. Oh, way out, District 8, didn't see it. 655 yes and no 238. So yes has a very, 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 very comfortable lead. And District 5 just came up, 338 yes, and wait for it, drum roll, yeah.
Drum roll.
At 106 no. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the yes folks will be smiling, and they have been successful.
Yeah.
And it's great news for the town, in my humble
honestly
opinion.
believe it is. I think that I'm thrilled that the community has decided to invest in Norwood in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and again, we were talking with Alan, and we were talking with Tony. Again, it was, it wasn't one thing or another. It was overwhelmingly the business case, if you will, was made.
Yes.
There was not any doubt in the numbers. Fuzzy math, I think is
Right.
the term that you
Voodoo math, I think I used.
Voodoo math, new term. So congratulations to you on that, and hopefully you can sleep well and breathe a sigh of relief tonight.
This is very gratifying if we can have this done. Yes.
Right.
So when do you meet next? Well,
Wednesday
actually,
night, we have a
so
school
already
committee
have
meeting.
But we already have a contingency budget, right?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
forgot about that.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's all set, but the schools had been working towards 2 options, and so we had already gotten quotes for what it would be for movers to close the Willett School.
Right.
So tomorrow morning, we're moving in one direction or the other, and I'm really happy that we're going to be moving in the good direction.
Now, we may not get a chance to talk to you again. Will you also be changing chairs on Wednesday night?
No, not this week.
Okay.
The school committee policy is that we change at our second meeting in June.
Okay.
So 2 weeks from Wednesday.
Okay, so we'll watch for that
Yes.
on NCM.
Yes, as always.
All right,
Right,
thank you.
Congratulations, and
Congratulations.
if you hand it off to David.
Thank you, Maya.
David, before we get in, let's see, we got District 9 has come in, 756 yes, 257 no, and you can see the totals with 7 out of 9 reporting. We have 4,728 yeses and 1,504 no's, so
Pretty
almost
overwhelming.
4 to 1. That's
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
Pretty overwhelming.
So-
That's good.
Can I have those election results?
I know,
when
kid.
go for a rerun?
I think we would all love that. And then actually, look at the cool video, the cool graphic that we have, so we can keep watching that. So David, you're representing the Board of Selectmen tonight. How are you feeling about this effort?
Very good. It's a great positive step for the town. I think the voters listened
yeah.
to both sides. There was a lot of good debate for the past couple months, and people have made their cases, and the people have voted, and that's exactly what we want. It's the democratic process at work and alive and well in Norwood.
Well, and you're coming from the FinCom
Yes.
over to the Board of Selectmen, so you've gone from the no committee to the yes committee. But
Well, not always yes. I was watching the other day. He didn't
Yeah.
get a yes.
He didn't get a yes. But also, all 3 town boards we're very united around this.
Yes, and that's part of the impressive part to me was that you had the 3 major boards in town, not just working cooperatively, but understanding that the voters elected them to do their job, and they're all volunteers, but they worked for a year trying to find the right number if there was to be a number, and they worked hard together to support it, and that's what you're supposed to do, and I think they all did a really, really good job. So, I just want to echo one thing that Tony said, because it really is always in the back of my mind, not just as a selectman, but as a FinCom, when we were developing the MOU, was the phrase that Tony talked, we're going to use all revenue first before we do the tax rate. That's so important,
Yeah.
especially to the seniors. I
Sure.
know it's a hard pill to swallow,
Yep.
but we're taking all these steps of trying to protect the residential tax rate first, and you have to do that by using all revenues first, and then just get what you need from the tax rate, which I hope as time goes on to be smaller.
Awesome. Well, I think we are ready to, I don't want to call them the ladies of the evening, because that would probably be a really bad connotation. But we do have the 3 co-chairs of the committee. So we have,
You do the...
Do you want me to do it?
no, you can introduce yourself. Go ahead.
I'm Julie Barber Issa.
I'm Sarah Quinn.
And I'm Katie Neal Rizzo.
Congratulations, ladies.
Yes.
Thank you.
So how do you feel?
Very excited.
Relieved.
Yes, relieved.
Yeah,
is good.
I watched some heavy sighs from all of you when the
Yes.
results came in.
It's been
But
a
they
really
were-
long day.
They were happy heavy
Yes,
sighs.
yes.
And we saw some tweeting, some live tweeting going on, and I almost forgot to mention, we've got Steve Allinger live tweeting for Norcom Media, which is our NCM live tweet. So I
Great.
got that shameless plug in, ladies. So what's the first thing you all are going to do besides sleep?
finished all my teacher evaluations that are due.
No,
We're
seriously,
gonna, we're gonna go over to the theater and thank all our volunteers and breathe a deep sigh of relief and celebrate a little bit.
So,
sure.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you think made the difference? And this is an overwhelming yes vote, which is awesome.
I think it was a real grassroots effort. We really reached out into the community, and we had a ton of volunteers that helped out in a lot of different ways, from writing letters to their friends, going door to door, holding signs, making calls, having conversations. We really reached out into the community in a number of different ways.
And we really tried to keep the campaign positive. I mean, you can't control everybody on social media, but we really tried to keep it fact-based and as positive as we could.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to let you
ahead.
get a
No,
word
no,
in
no.
there, but I'm going to
You
say
expect me to get the word in?
no, definitely you're not going to.
I live with 3 women, so
Not us.
I know this drill. No, you can only hope.
But I mean, I think that the positivity, and I know that the 3 of you were really committed to that. At times, social media did get a little out of control,
Right.
but you were able to pull it back, and the message, and that made a big difference, because this is an emotional issue for a lot of people, and it can get ugly.
Right.
And so, as a townsperson, I want to thank you, because you guys really set a nice example around that.
And I saw a lot of people I didn't usually see holding signs.
Yes.
And I thought that was impressive. That made me feel, I really felt very confident. I didn't have that much at stake as you guys, but I felt it was going to be a big win. And a lot of it was because I saw, obviously, people with young children, and that's the demographic that gets missed sometimes with the elections. But somehow you folks were able to corral them and get them out there, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, you wanted to say something.
I always want to say something. I think we did work really hard to keep it positive, and social media was definitely a challenge that we didn't have in previous campaigns, so it was nice to have some young blood that could teach me how to use it. But it was really hard to control the message that other people were sending, and we learned really quickly that you can't respond to everybody, and people are everyone's coming from a place of wanting to do the right thing for the community, and we might not all believe in the same thing, but I think the campaign really brought a lot of people together, which was a nice thing to see. Hopefully it can continue. This turnout is great, but April elections really matter a lot too, and it would be nice to see the engagement
I
continue.
always wonder if, an exercise like this will bring out candidates in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I met a lot of new neighbors, all different ages, and people from all different neighborhoods who wanted to get involved in this, and it was one of my favorite parts of the campaign, just meeting new people.
Super.
So just out of curiosity, Sarah's a veteran of these. She was,
Don't make me sound old.
No, you'll
I
never
got
catch up
involved
to me.
at a very young age. I was 12.
And when we built the high school, you and
Amy and Sarah,
Amy and Sarah.
who guided us
Sullivan.
along the way. Just
The
because
other
they're
Sarah.
not here, don't
Yeah.
pretend they did not have a say in everything we did.
Right.
But tell us a little bit about you guys. You have children in the system, I
Yes,
assume.
I have a 2nd grader at the Oldham and a kindergartner at the Willett. I used to be the PTO president at the Willett, so I really learned, all of their struggles with space issues, and as the finances became a struggle, we had to buy cafeteria tables and things like that. With parent-raised funds, and it just became a lot.
It's actually interesting. When the high school campaign started, I had a 3-year-old and a kindergartner and was the president of the Willett PTO. I'm now the president of the high school PTO, and my 3-year-old turned 15 today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we saw her over there. Just- yeah, she
She's
was
not
on-
letting me forget that everyone went to her birthday with an override.
And I have 3 kids, 2 at the Oldham and 1 in preschool, and have just been watching school committee meetings and attending FinCom meetings for a few years now, and watching how things have been going, and got involved and started asking questions of Julie, and then Sarah and Amy have kind of become mentors in
That makes you
leading
sound
the
old.
way. And somehow we ended up here. Yeah, it's been a great learning experience.
I mean, you both were involved in the PTOs, but also
Yes.
town meeting. And
Yep, town meeting.
Invested a lot, not just in the override, but in the community.
So Sarah, I'd really be interested in hearing, and somebody's got to give you a mic, the difference between, you referenced it a little bit, social media played a part in this, which is different than the last campaign. What else were the differences?
Social media actually really was the biggest difference. I think it allowed us to harness the talents of the volunteers in a way that we couldn't with the high school override. The high school override really involved a lot of face-to-face meetings. We had Sunday night meetings for a year, and that's how we pulled things together. Everyone had their notebook, and we were able to just reach so many more people, and I think that came across. I mean, the quality of the videos that we were able to pull together. I think when we filmed the talk shows for the high school, your daughter was our producer. And this time we have people who are actually producers. And Kate Sibbing-Dunn did a great job, and Kate Brown, and Adrian Atwood. Scott Sangiacomo did that wonderful explainer video. So we were just able to harness the talents that exist in the community, which was
a lot of community
really nice.
resources, a lot of volunteers who just brought their expertise to the cause.
And I think you approached it the right way. It was really a campaign about educating people what the real issues were.
Right.
And I think the no side, it costs too much money. Whatever it was,
Right.
money doesn't grow on trees was on their sign.
Right.
And my comeback to that is if it did, I would be an arborist.
Well, but that's why we need the override, because money doesn't grow on trees, right? But I think there were people who had valid concerns
Yes.
about the override, and
Yeah.
the number was a concern. What are we going to do differently? Because really, the override's just the beginning of setting us up for a strong financial future in Norwood. We need to be sure that we're staying on top of our education goals and our financial goals, so that we don't end up in this position again.
And we're really just doing catch-up from cuts to the
Sure.
schools that have been happening over the last 10 years. So, we're catching up, and then we're taking some steps to move in the right direction.
And I don't want to belabor this point, but I'm really excited that there's young people like yourself coming in and doing this stuff. I mean, our last kids both graduated in 2014, so, we're happy to pass the baton.
It's actually interesting because we've had quite a number of volunteers who have been inactive in town politics in the last few, maybe 10, 20 years, and they were very active when their children were in school, and they've kind of bubbled back up to the top and are getting really re-interested in, re-engaged in the community and town meeting. It's been really cool to kind of reactivate that demographic too.
It was a
and
great mix of
learn from them.
volunteers.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, so what did you guys learn?
What did we learn?
Well, obviously you learned how to win.
Yeah, well, I think no, we tried to keep it fun too. I mean, there's a lot of facts, but talking about taxes after a while gets boring. Talking about numbers, people just lose it. So we posted a picture of Martini Man and a picture of a dinosaur.
That was a good one, I like.
And we just tried to keep it fun.
The convertible picture. I was saying what your nickname was, but he wasn't going to use that. You weren't in the picture, though.
I wasn't invited.
Two-seater,
apparently.
We had a lot of
young
signs.
kids.
We had a lot of signs.
I was in my wheelchair.
So I think the thing that we learned is that people get interested in different ways, and you have to meet people where they are. Some people really want every single fact, and we can provide that. Or some people just want the very basics, and you have to meet people where they are.
And if you want to activate volunteers from all different areas, you really need to find what works for people. There are some people who have 3 kids under the age of 4, and they're all in strollers, and they can literally only do half an hour, and we'll use that. And there are some people who have no kids at home and have all day to volunteer, and they can spend 4 hours. So
Okay, while you're here, we have all of the results in. So, can you just go back to them just to see them? They're looking at these results. Can the camera just see the smiles on their faces right there? So, okay, now go back to the now go back to the numbers. Okay.
Yeah.
So what just came in? 6 and 7.
Yep.
Not bad for an old guy. 371 yes in 6, 121 no, and in 7, 523 yes, 196 no, for a grand total, all districts reporting, 5,622 yes, 1,821 no. Who's good at math? What's the percentage? Anybody know?
geez.
3 to 1. Okay, thank
3 to
you.
1?
3 to 1. There we go.
3 to 1.
We'll take it.
So you'll take it. So you'll take it.
Yep, that's
Now, last question for you guys. What's next?
Going to Disneyland.
right.
They're going to solve the Middle East crisis next.
Global warming.
My son has pneumonia, so I'm staying home from work tomorrow.
I think I'd really like to continue to work with the town on making the aid that we've talked about finding more help for people who are might have a hard time affording this tax increase, help for the disabled and elderly populations, making that information more widely available and trying to make it a little bit easier to find and easier to fill out.
Right.
We want to keep people in Norwood. We're not trying to drive anybody out of town or, change the town at all. We're trying to move in a forward direction. So I'm really interested in helping to shed some light on that area.
Yeah,
super capable.
and transparency too. We had a lot of questions today about where do I vote? Where do I vote? Making that as available as possible to people, because a lot of people showed up here to vote at town hall and were turned away, and you need to know that, and it needs to be available. So we would love to make that easier to find.
Sarah?
I just think, trying to figure out a way to keep these people engaged. It's fantastic that so many people showed up to vote, but they need to show up every time.
Yep.
So I've been involved in.
Join their PTOs.
And
There you go. I've been involved in many elections statewide. In my former life, I did a lot of that. And so be prepared for tomorrow morning. You're going to wake up and you're going to almost be depressed because it's been 100 miles an hour for the last I don't know how long it's been for you folks, and then it's over. Now what do we do? So I'm glad you've already latched onto your next thing.
don't you worry, we have a plan.
And we all work full-time.
I know.
And children.
So
To be
you
honest,
remember
the
that,
first
Sarah?
thing I'm going to
Yeah.
do is laundry because my kids.
Okay, and then
smell
there's
a
that
little.
too. You can come to our house too and
No, I
do
do
that
remember
as
that,
well.
Jack. The day after the high school override, I remember driving around aimlessly with
Yeah.
Sarah and Amy picking up signs because we didn't know what else to do.
There's that
You
too.
know?
Yeah. So we're going to send you guys off
Thank
because
you.
you've got a
Thank you
party
so
to
much.
go to.
Yes, Norwood
Thank
Theater
you.
donated the space tonight, so anyone's welcome to come
Super.
They
So
showing a
join
movie or
us.
anything?
They showed this
They showed
live. We're
this
on the big
Oh,
screen,
geez.
Jack.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait a
yeah.
minute.
Say hi to everyone at the
It's not
theater.
the first time I've been on that stage.
all right.
Well, now you're blown
Thank
up
you.
huge.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tolman, I'll
Yeah,
take your
congrats.
break.
Well, 3-1 margin is pretty. It's not pretty impressive. It's damn impressive.
That's really impressive. I do not think anybody expected
Well,
that.
I think it was 4-1 for the high school.
Yes, it was.
And so I'm actually not that surprised. I really felt good about this. And I felt that, we'd get a result like this, but you never know.
Yeah,
you know.
and the vote, again, unofficial on the turnout, but a darn good turnout. The celebrating is already beginning. They're not waiting until they're getting over.
I thought that was applause for the quality of our production tonight.
I think it was, except they all seem to be looking that way.
Oh well.
And
There must be
speaking,
a monitor over there.
and as we're wrapping up, I do want to, speaking about the quality of our production, our phenomenal crew. These things are not easy to put on. They're live. They're crazy. Results are coming in. You and I are insane to work with. The divas, the two divas of NCM. But would love to thank our crew, station manager Megan Corbett, Mike Maloof, Brian Dunn, Joe Meehan, Bowie, Brian Boudreau, Michaela Hurley, who is on guard duty and rocks a great cone over there, Stephen Ellinger, and of course I would be remiss if I did not remember our executive director, Jack, do not call me McCarthy Tolman.
Oh, he loves to be called McCarthy. It's a huge improvement.
And great to have you back
No, it's
again.
great. Believe me, it's great to be back. And people have been just so kind to me. And you know what? NCM has been really kind to me in my absence too. And so I appreciate the gifts that you sent. And cash would have been nice too. But I understand you have auditors, and you can't really give me cash. But I think it was good that you doubled my salary. So that's awesome. But anyway. I think we're done.
I think we're done. I think we recapped the results.
So yeah, the grand total was 5,622 yes and 1,821 no's. So the first operational override ever in Norwood was a success. So, Jerry, you have the last word.
Well, I'm going to let you get your tagline in there, but you said it, historic night. I think it's great to see the enthusiasm. Hopefully the enthusiasm will continue, and the civic pride will continue, and then at the end of the day, as these things go, everybody will continue to come together, because this is one Norwood.
Absolutely. So, good night from Memorial Hall. Good night and keep safe, and God bless the town of Norwood.